All right, strap yourselves in for this one, because today we are going deep, deep into the world of AI safety and OpenAI's latest creation, the O1 AI models.
And these aren't just some simple updates to make your smartphone run a little faster.
No, not at all. We are talking about AI that can actually think, and I mean really think, before it speaks.
It's a potential game changer, and OpenAI themselves released a very detailed system card, I believe they called it, on September 12th, 2024, kind of like a detailed report card to tell us all about it.
So let's break it down. What exactly are these O1 models, and what makes them so different from what we've seen before?
Well, there are two main models, O1 Preview and O1 Mini, and both are built to reason using something called chain of thought.
Chain of thought reasoning. It does have a certain ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what does it actually mean?
Simply put, instead of just spitting out an answer, the AI has to show its work. Like, imagine solving a math problem. And instead of just giving the solution, you have to show each step, each calculation that led you there.
So it's like the AI is thinking out loud, laying out its logic for us to see.
You got it. And from a safety standpoint, this is huge. Now, OpenAI can try to embed safety policies into the AI's entire thought process, not just try to filter out bad outputs after the fact.
So they are trying to align the way the AI actually thinks, rather than play whack-a-mole with whatever it spits out.
Exactly. It's not just about preventing the AI from saying the wrong thing. It's about making sure it doesn't even think about it in the first place.
Okay, so this chain of thought approach sounds great in theory. But does it actually make these O1 models safer in practice?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and the report does point to some encouraging results. For example, these O1 models seem to be much better at resisting what we call jailbreaks.
Yes, jailbreaks, those attempts to, shall we say, liberate the AI and make it go rogue, right?
Exactly. Think of it as a constant tug of war between those trying to build safe and ethical AI and those determined to find the limits of what it can do, even if it means bending the rules a bit.
And the O1 models are holding their own in this tug of war.
So far, so good. They put these models through the ringer with some really creative and devious jailbreak attempts, even used this benchmark called Strong Reject, which is like an obstacle course for AI misbehavior.
Okay, and how'd they do?
They aced it. They sailed through it. Much better than previous models, which is definitely a win in the safety column.
Well, color me impressed. But let's talk about this whole hallucination issue, which I think we've all heard about. AI confidently stating things that are just plain wrong. Did they manage to iron out that wrinkle?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. On paper, OpenAI says that O1 Preview is much less prone to hallucinations than its predecessor, GPT-4, and in some controlled tests, that seems to be true. But
Oh, there's always a but.
right,
Yeah.
right. OpenAI also admits that they have gotten reports about, people actually using O1 Preview out in the wild, and those reports suggest that it still hallucinates, particularly in certain areas.
So it might be better at explaining its reasoning, following the rules, but it can still get things wrong, and confidently so.
It seems that way. It's almost like, imagine if you had a student who is really good at showing their work, explaining their thought process, but sometimes they still arrived at the wrong answer and they were utterly convinced they were right.
And you'd be tearing your hair out trying to figure out where they went wrong.
Precisely. It highlights the challenge of truly understanding what's going on inside these increasingly complex AI systems.
So it's not just about whether the AI gets the answer right or wrong. It's also about how much we can actually trust its reasoning process.
Right. And that makes this next part even more interesting, because how do you measure something as slippery as a trust when it comes to AI?
And that makes me think about the question of AI bias, which feels even more crucial if the AI is really good at explaining itself even when it gets things wrong.
Oh, absolutely. That's not just a technical issue, it's a societal one, and OpenAI actually dedicated a good chunk of their system card to it.
So spill the tea. What do they have to say about bias in these O1 models?
Well, they ran a whole battery of tests, really trying to see how these models measure up in terms of fairness. And it gets complicated fast.
How so? Like, what were they actually looking at?
Okay, so imagine you are trying to teach an AI to identify potentially harmful stereotypes or to avoid using language that could be considered biased. And on that front, they actually found some real improvements in O1 Preview. It seems to be less likely to fall into those traps compared to older models.
Okay, well, less bias is always a good thing.
Definitely. And there's almost always a but with AI, isn't there? They also found that when they tried to make the AI less biased in one way, it sometimes became less likely to admit when it simply didn't know something.
Oh, interesting. So it's like trying to be polite, by always offering an answer, even if it's making that answer up.
That's a great way to put it. It's this weird balancing act where you are trying to make the AI more well-behaved, but in doing so, you might accidentally make it more likely to, you know, tell those little white lies to avoid looking bad.
And that could be even more dangerous than just admitting ignorance, especially people who are relying on this AI for, accurate information. So how on earth do you begin to grapple with all of this? How do you even measure something as complex and, let's be honest, potentially scary as AI safety?
Well, OpenAI uses what they call a preparedness framework, and it's like their playbook for evaluating and mitigating risk with these powerful AI
And
models.
when they say risk, are we talking like your computer might crash kind of risks or something a bit more intense?
Oh, this is the full-on existential stuff. Cybersecurity threats, misuse for biowarfare, the whole AI persuasion and manipulation angle, even the potential for AI to become so autonomous that it poses a threat to humanity. That's what they're talking about when they say risk.
Okay, so all the good sci-fi movie scenarios are on the table. Got it. So how do these O1 models stack up against those kinds of extreme risks?
Well, thankfully, it seems like we are not quite at that Skynet becomes self-aware point just yet. OpenAI uses a risk rating system, low to high, and both O1 Preview and O1 Mini ended up with a medium risk rating overall.
So somewhere between nothing to see here and everybody panic.
Yeah.
That's oddly reassuring. I don't know if I should be relieved or terrified.
Cautiously optimistic, maybe. Even OpenAI's own internal safety advisory group, which reviewed these findings, essentially said proceed with caution. So, not hitting the panic button, but definitely not giving these models a free pass either.
Right. Understandably so. But let's get specific. What were some of the areas where they saw the most potential for, let's call it trouble?
Sure, cybersecurity is a big one. So they ran all sorts of tests to see if these O1 models could be used to, hack into systems or exploit vulnerabilities, that sort of thing. They even made it try its hand at some of those capture the flag hacking challenges.
Oh, wow. Like the ones where teams compete to break into computer systems. I've heard about those. So was our AI contestant taking home any trophies?
Not quite. It showed some skills, especially at the beginner levels, but thankfully it wasn't ready to go head to head with the big leagues. OpenAI concluded that at this stage, neither O1 model poses a significant cybersecurity risk on its own.
Okay, well, that's good news for now, at least.
Yeah.
But I imagine things could change rapidly as these models get even more advanced. What about biowarfare? That one's always a bit terrifying.
Right, like straight out of a nightmare. And it was a major focus of their evaluation. They worked with experts to really dig into whether these models could help someone create a biological weapon.
Please don't tell me the AI can whip up a deadly virus in its spare time.
Thankfully, no, it's not quite at that level yet. What they found is that, yes, the O1 models could potentially help with some aspects of planning a bioattack, like suggesting materials or procedures, and it's a really, really big but. They just don't have that real-world hands-on knowledge to actually pull it off.
So it's like they could maybe provide a shopping list for a bomb, but couldn't tell you how to build one, or let alone detonate one.
A perfect analogy. And that's precisely why OpenAI still classified the risk here as medium, because while the AI has access to some scary information, it simply doesn't have the practical skills to pose a direct threat, at least for now.
It feels like that for now is doing a lot of heavy lifting in these risk assessments.
It really is. It's like they are waving a yellow flag saying, hey, this is something to keep a close eye on because as AI gets smarter, we need to be even more vigilant about how it could be misused, even unintentionally.
And speaking of unintended consequences,
Mm.
let's talk about this whole persuasion thing. We've touched on it. But the idea of AI becoming super persuasive, well, it's both fascinating and a little unnerving.
It really is. And this time, OpenAI actually brought in some real humans to see how the AI stacked up.
Oh, do tell.
So they used this method called Change My View, where they basically fed the AI arguments from Reddit's Change My View forum, that place where people go to debate literally everything.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely gotten lost in the weeds on that forum before. So they basically set the AI loose to debate with real people.
Exactly. They wanted to see if the AI could craft arguments that were convincing enough to actually change people's minds. And get this, both O1 models performed just as well as the average human on that forum.
Wait, hold on. The AI was going head-to-head with real people in online debates. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And a little scary, if I'm being honest.
Right. But here's the caveat. While the AI was as persuasive as the average human, it didn't outperform the best human persuaders. So, at least for now, it's not operating at this superhuman level of manipulation.
Okay, that's a sliver of good news, at least. And it makes me think about all those fears of AI autonomy. Did they find any evidence that these models are, secretly plotting to take over the world in their spare time?
World domination is thankfully still in the realm of fiction, but they did run some fascinating tests to see just how autonomous these models could get, especially regarding self improvement and resource acquisition.
When you say resource acquisition, you mean like the AI trying to hack into systems and steal data or computing power for itself?
Exactly. Or, say, trying to rewrite its own code to make itself smarter, or gain access to more resources without any human help, that sort of thing.
Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah.
Did the AI go full-on digital mastermind on them?
Not quite. While these O1 models did show some pretty impressive problem-solving skills, like figuring out how to find information or even writing bits of code, they couldn't actually complete any of the fully autonomous tasks they set up.
So no need to call Sarah Connor just yet.
Not just yet. OpenAI rated both models as low risk for model autonomy, meaning they don't see it as an immediate threat. But it's definitely something they're keeping a close eye on.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Cybersecurity, biowarfare, the art of persuasion. It seems like the general takeaway is that these O1 models are undeniably powerful, but not, thankfully, uncontrollably so.
Exactly. They are still tools. And like any tool, it all comes down to how they're used. It's our job developers, users, everyone to use them safely and ethically.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, it wasn't lost on me that OpenAI put a surprising amount of emphasis on multilingual capabilities with these new models.
Meh.
A lot of emphasis.
It's true. It almost feels like everyone has been so focused on AI mastering English, they forgot that there's this whole other world of languages out there.
A whole world of languages and, ways of thinking, cultural context. It's not just about translating words. It's about understanding meaning across those cultural divides. And it wasn't just a quick, hey, let's teach the AI a few phrases in Spanish and call it a day kind of thing.
Not even close. They really went all in on evaluating these models in a whole bunch of different languages.
Hmm.
They use this benchmark called MMLU, which stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding, if you can believe it.
Catchy.
Right. But the point is, they had the whole thing translated into 14 languages.
Uh.
14. And we're not just talking about the usual suspects like Spanish or French. They even included Yoruba.
Yoruba. I have to admit, I don't think I could pick that out of a language lineup.
Most people probably couldn't. But that's the point, right? OpenAI wanted to see how these models handled languages with different structures, different cultural contexts. And get this. They didn't just use Google Translate and call it good. They brought in actual human translators for all of it to make sure it was accurate.
Wow, okay, that's commitment. But how did the AI actually do? Can it actually think in all those languages, or was it mostly just spitting out word salad?
Well, the results were actually pretty mind-blowing. Both O1 Preview and O1 Mini performed well across all 14 languages. O1 Preview actually showed huge improvements over GPT-4 in every single language. Not just a little better, but way better. And O1 Mini beat out GPT-4 Mini as well.
Okay, now that's impressive. So this isn't just like your phone being able to translate a menu when you travel. We are talking about AI that can understand the nuances of different languages and cultures and actually reason in those languages.
Exactly. It's like, remember the universal translator from Star Trek? We're getting closer to that kind of world where language isn't a barrier to communication or understanding.
It's an exciting thought for sure, but let's be real. Like with any powerful technology, there's always the potential for misuse. Could this be used to spread misinformation in multiple languages or reinforce harmful biases across cultures? It feels like we need a whole other deep dive to unpack all of that.
We probably do. But I think it's important to acknowledge both the incredible potential here and the very real risks. As AI gets more sophisticated, as it becomes more multilingual, it's more important than ever to have these conversations about ethics, responsibility, and safety.
Couldn't agree more. We've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive into OpenAI's O1 models. We've gone from this idea of AI actually being able to think, this whole chain of thought reasoning concept, to the very real challenges of making sure that AI is safe, that it's fair, and that it's used responsibly, and that it doesn't turn into some evil superintelligence that tries to take over the world.
Right. We dodged that bullet this time.
Yeah.
But it does make you think, how do we make sure those safeguards, those ethical considerations are baked into AI development from the ground up?
Exactly. It's not just a technical challenge, it's a societal one.
Yeah.
And it's one that we all need to be thinking about because, like it or not, AI is here to stay.
Absolutely. And it's only going to become a bigger part of our lives as we go.
Well said. Okay, folks, we've thrown a lot of information at you today. Hopefully you're as fascinated by this stuff as we are. But here's the big takeaway. If AI can already reason its way around some of the safety measures we have in place today, what happens when it becomes even smarter? What happens when it can learn and adapt even faster? It's something to think about, and it's definitely something we'll keep exploring in future episodes.